Well, hello. Welcome to the Riverfront Reds Show, where the Reds apparently, Chris Garber, are not quite done yet.
Yeah, they got a little life in them. Hunter Greene, we're recording Thursday night, and just moments after he delivered what I honestly thought of as I was watching it as the best, most dominant performance I've seen by a starter, maybe since Kerry Wood in 1998.
Really?
He had command of every pitch. He could spot 101, 100. He threw one 102 and a half in the ninth inning,
Wow.
hitting corners, breaking balls, the splitter just disappearing off the plate to lefties. Uh, he had it. He knew he had it. He had perfect game stuff, honestly. He walked one guy late in the game, but Ellie kicked an easy grounder, but he kind of got screened. The ball kind of almost hit Hunter Greene's glove, and then it almost hit second base. So it was a little bit of a tricky play, but he just booted it. And then Suzuki hit a legit double down the line, but Sal Stewart got close enough to it to make me think that Cabrian Hayes probably would have got it.
Wouldn't that be something?
So
Well,
anyway,
I'm going
absolutely.
to take the L on that one because actually it was funny. I was texting with you. I was serving as carpool dad for a bunch of freshmen who wanted to see their varsity soccer team tonight, and I was checking the scores, and I put in my earbuds, and the Cowboy didn't want to jinx it. The Cowboy said a lot of things that made me think there weren't any hits yet. And so I said, well, let me switch over to the app, the FanDuel app, and I put that on my phone a little bit, looking down at it, and sure enough, as soon as I turned it on, there went that double down the line. So if you want to blame me out there, Reds fans, I guess I'll have to take the L on that one.
Yeah, I was a little late turning the game on, and the game was on Fox tonight, so you had
Yeah, that
national
was weird.
announcers, and that they said, Hunter Greene has retired the first 9 or first 12 or whatever it was at the time, and I was like, oh, my ears perked up. He's always got no hitter stuff, but if he doesn't walk anybody in the first 4 innings, then you're really looking at something cool.
He will throw a 9-inning one. I mean, he had the one in Pittsburgh. What was a 7-inning deal that he threw? I think 7 innings of no hit, but then they lost in the 8th, I believe, back in those weird COVID rules. No. So the Reds currently at 77 and 76 as we record this on September 18th. Tied with the Diamondbacks, 2 games behind the New York Mets. I admit it, man. After the sweep handed to the Reds by the A's, I didn't shut it off, but let's just say it became more side-eye viewing. Like, let's keep an eye on it, but it's not like edge of my seat like I wish they were this time of year.
I've declared them dead 4 or 5 times in the last 3 weeks for sure.
Sure. No, I mean, the Mets, if they had a lead on the Mets right now, or if it was just the Reds and the Mets kind of going back and forth a game apart from each other, I think we'd be more excited. But frankly, the Reds and the Mets let the Giants and the Diamondbacks sold everything. Suarez is off in Seattle, overcoming an 0-for-32 slump with a 4-for-4 game last night. And, they dumped a bunch of guys, and yet there they are right there in this playoff chase. And I guess if it was just the Reds and Mets and it was a little more compelling, both teams winning, I think we'd be way more on the edge of our seats, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the good thing about the Diamondbacks is they've got the Phillies right now, and then they play San Diego and LA.
Right.
So schedule-wise, the Reds have a pretty good draw. The Mets play Washington and the Cubs, and I'm not sure who they play the last series, but then the Marlins. So, but the Mets they're more inept than the Reds are.
I want to get your take on, like, what makes this feel less attainable this year? And I've got 2 things down. I'm going to add another one. Number one, just their inability, the Reds, to make a real run. I mean, they were the never been swept Reds, and now they've been swept twice. But they even when they weren't getting swept, it rarely was anything more than a 4-game winning streak here or there. Is it the fact that they let too many teams in the race at this point, or is it just reflex on our part that this is not going to go well? I mean, which of these 3 do you think makes it feel that way?
I think it's that they've never really. I mean, they have had a 5-game winning streak in April, and one in May, and one in June. Like they haven't ever looked like they were going to win it.
Mm-mm.
Never been in first, I don't think. So I think that's it. Like they've just never looked great.
Well, yeah, and with 19 games left, I thought they need to go 15-4. After a little while, it looked like the Mets were going to let them back into the point where they could have gone 14-5, or even as low as winning 12 games or so in that stretch and still maybe make it in. But at that point, it's just almost like the Mets handing it to anybody else than it would be us taking it.
Yeah, yeah. So what do they've got? How many do they have left? They've got 1, 2, 3, 6, 9 left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the odds are they're going to go 5-4.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, obviously that doesn't get it done. I guess you got to figure somebody in this group is going to go 6-3.
Yeah,
And
you would think so. Somebody just needs to grab it. And obviously
maybe that does it.
The Diamondbacks have players that were a part of something like this 2 years ago. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
they were
And I
not.
guess, yeah,
Yeah.
and you say you look at the schedule, and obviously, who cares, right? The Reds just lost to the A's, and you don't know who's going to be playing who the last week.
No, the Cubs and the Brewers have already clinched, and neither team maybe have, like the Brewers win that last 3 games may not even want to. I mean, would the Brewers, would they even pitch any of their 3 starting pitchers they're going to use in the playoffs?
Well, I think they might if they've got a bye,
Yeah.
just to not make it a Patrick Mahomes 3 weeks off deal at the end of
Yeah.
the season. But they're not going to be stretching anybody out.
Watch the Reds sweep the Cubs, sweep the Brewers, and get swept by the Pirates, and miss it by a game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, I'll be excited if they make the playoffs, but they're not that good of a team. The announcers tonight were saying the same things that we say. This team has great young starting pitching. This team has a couple young stars, and they need to add a couple
Mm-hmm.
real stars. And of course, they added, and a veteran presence for the locker
Mm-hmm.
room. But
Yeah.
let's do with that what you may. But they need a real middle of the order hitter.
Meanwhile, the Guardians are on another one of their runs that our friend Nate Dotson tweeted. So let me get this straight. We always gave Tito the credit for that, and really it was their front office.
Well,
I don't know, whatever. Maybe
I mean,
Tito helped lay that foundation so well that that's what they just used to doing. But
they've won 80 games.
Right. Yeah,
They're not even really trying.
That's right. Well, the Reds, I guess they're trying.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
No, and it's interesting, as you said. I think it was even about a month ago. I said I don't even care because people were trying to say the Reds had the tougher schedule than the Mets or whomever, and it doesn't matter. The Reds stooped to the level of the bad teams, and they seem to play okay, with the exception of that one series against the Dodgers, against everybody that they should be looking up at. And so there's no rhyme or reason to this Reds team, and I guess that's where we got to just figure that out. And I do think, pitching wise, not many teams would want to face, if the Reds could line up the 3 guys they'd want to throw out there. Like, not many teams would want to face that, but it might look a lot like that Atlanta series back in 2020, where that was a best out of 3, I think, and Trevor Bauer pitched as good a game as I've seen in the playoffs and loses 1-0.
Yeah, 15 minutes later, it's all over.
That's right. It felt like, wait, were we in the playoffs? Kind of like 2013 as well.
Yeah.
With that 1-game deal. Well, I want to lighten things up a little bit, and I know you said you didn't hear about this, so I'm going to be. It's funny because I listen to a lot of college football podcasts, and everyone played the whole clip of what I'm about to share with you. I don't have the clip, but Brian Kelly, everybody's favorite coach, is LSU's coach. His team won 20-10 over Florida, but the 20 points that they scored is a little misleading because they intercepted DJ Lagway for Florida 5 times, and they only scored 20 points. So they go in the press conference, And one of the reporters down there, the first question of the whole press conference is basically, "What's wrong with your offense?" And he goes off on the guy, and he goes through all these things from, um, "You're a spoiled bunch of writers, and do you think we need to win 70-0 to have you think we did okay or well enough?" And he brought up this weird thing about how they're 17-1 at night. Like as if as if the playoff committee's like, "Yeah, wait a minute. Now let's look at this record at night."
Oh, well, now that you
But
tell me that, I'll
he went
reconsider.
on and on about how it was idiotic to ask that question. Now, a lot of people might think, well, especially if you're a college football person, like, okay, maybe you wait till Monday when the coach regroups with the press and, ask that question. They just won a big game, whatever. But, first off, this is a baseball show. I get that. But there is a tie-in we're going to bring up in a second. Brian Kelly, though, is pretty much despised by almost everyone in the 513 area code, whether it be from the way he left the University of Cincinnati to the way he ran Notre Dame, which is 1/3 of Hamilton County Notre Dame fans at this point. I'm not sure. But the rant was triggered by that question. And the thing that got me is he acts as if a guy that we became too familiar with about 8 years ago. He acts as if writers are fans, which some college football writers are fans.
Yeah.
But he acts as if they're like a mechanism for the team,
Or part of the team, yeah.
or whatever they do should be shine a light on the team as far as how good they are. Maybe point the light somewhere else when we're not as good. He called the group of reporters spoiled as a group, and he asked them, "What do you want?" So, like Brian Kelly, here's my first thought too was Brian Kelly's going to go into the next week only scoring 20 points against Florida when you got 5 interceptions. I bet you he would go into the next week wanting to fix the offense, right? He, as the coach, he would probably say we need to run the ball better and we need to score more. So, like, why is that such a bad question? Like, right?
It's so weird. Like, I mean, he's got his issues, right? But this idea, and what was the Brian Price thing? How does this help the Reds?
That's what I was going to bring up. That's why I brought this up on our Reds podcast.
Yeah.
Brian Price was once asked. He once went after C. Trent Rosecrans, then of the Inquirer, I believe. How C. Trent's reporting that Tucker Barnhart was at the airport on the way to the team. How is that going to help the Cincinnati Reds? And here's the funny thing. I did a little research today to try to remember the details. Mesoraco got banged up, but I think they didn't want to put him on the injured list. And so they had just called up this guy named, here's an obscure former Red for you. I never remembered him. Didn't remember him at all. Kyle Skipworth.
Nope, got me on that one.
Now, Kyle Skipworth played 4 games for the Marlins in 2013. He then bounced around the minors some more, and the Reds called him up for a total of 4 days that April here in 2015, and he never saw any action as a Red. Sent back down, never made the bigs again. Now, this rant that Brian Price went on included the F word 77 times and 11 other profanities. All because they didn't get to tell Skipworth that he's getting sent down.
Oh, man.
How does that help the Cincinnati Reds, Chris? Like, it's not
just a fundamental misunderstanding of what those folks are there to do. And I don't understand how any of these coaches can get that wrong.
No.
I mean, you've worked as a sports writer. I really haven't. But on the day-to-day, I'm sure it's friendly and collegial.
Yeah.
But how are these coaches fooled into thinking that these reporters are there to help the team or to be employed by the team?
Well, especially
boost the team.
Like, you could almost see it if it was like, oh, let me charm you with my, sucking up to you most of the time, but then I'm going to be a viper and sick you like at the moment's notice. But it's like Brian Kelly makes $10 million a year. And it's not as if he's going out and hanging out with these writers after the game.
I don't think they make that. I sometimes see coaches do that to student journalists,
Yes.
which is like really pisses me off. But like, at least those guys are going to school with the players.
I told you before, didn't I? Bob Knight yelled at me once.
Oh yeah, let's hear that one.
So I'm a student reporter. I did the play-by-play of Ohio State men's basketball, and the Schottenstein Center was brand new that year, just open. And for the first year or two, maybe 3 years, they had us in this tiny little concrete block room for the media post game. And there was about 4 rows of chairs, probably about 5 or 6 chairs on each side of an aisle, and then a table where like a coach and 2 or 3 players could sit. And the Buckeyes, remember the Final Four year was 98-99. They had gone 8-22 the year before. They go 27-9 the next year. And in that game against Indiana, they beat them by like 18 points and never was in doubt. It was a blowout from the start. And Bob Knight comes in, and there's Indiana media, there's Columbus media, there's all kinds of people in there. We're packed. I'm standing against the wall at the back of the room, but it's not a very big room. And he comes in, he's all upset and he's angry, and he gives maybe a 30-second synopsis of the game, and then he just goes, "Any questions?" And I look around, and even the Indiana writers aren't asking any questions. I'm like, they're going to let him walk out of here without answering anything. So the year before, Indiana actually swept Ohio State in 3 games because they played in the Big Ten tournament. That was the first year they had that. And Ohio State was playing a point guard that was like, he was recruited out of Columbus, one of the city schools, as a shooting guard, but he never was meant to be on the floor hardly at all. And yet, because of guys getting kicked off the team when Jim O'Brien took over, this kid had to play point guard. So he had one of those Sleepy Floyd turnovers like Georgetown against UNC back in '82.
Mhm.
And they went down, A.J. Guyton or somebody went down and dunked the ball and beat Ohio State. And that was a close one. The other 2 were blowouts. So I asked Bob Knight, I say, were you surprised at how well the guards played? Because Scooney Penn had come off of not being eligible the year before, and Michael Redd was a sophomore averaging 20 a game. And he pointed a finger at me, and of course it felt way worse than it was. I've listened to it later on. But he basically says, "Let me ask you a question." He goes, "If I just said that we knew coming in that they would be a tough matchup for us, don't you think that means I wasn't surprised?" And the whole room just – but, I mean, it felt like –
Hey, say that then.
I felt like I just got put into the wall I was standing against.
Yeah.
Like I just – and like the whole room was just quiet. And all of a sudden he looks at his sports information guy and he goes, "Is that all?" And he gets up and leaves. And I remember Jeff Hogan, who just returned to Columbus at Channel 10. He was a sportscaster back then. He kind of leaned in and patted me. He goes, "You doing all right?" And I said, "That was awesome." And it was awesome. Nobody in that room asked a question, but little old sophomore Seth Shaner.
Yeah, you got to put that. I collect those kind of stories too, where I've been cursed out by an Academy Award winner once.
Okay.
It's
on the list, right, of things that
Yep.
I got to do. It was pretty cool. I actually yeah, so you're right. I mean, sometimes they make an example. Like Dabo Swinney went on a whole big rant this week about the people that don't believe in Clemson, and he listed all the great things they've done in the little old ACC these past 10 years. And he basically dared the administration to fire him with his big buyout. He's like, "If Clemson doesn't want me around anymore, I'll just go coach somewhere else." And it's like they do this for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Usually it has a reason. And he like, you go back to Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly was not happy only to win 2010 after getting 5 turnovers. And that he used that reporter to snap at him instead of really directing his anger at the fact that his team didn't play that well. But no, so yeah, I don't know. Brian Price, his 77 F words over. He didn't tell Skipworth.
I miss Trent Rosecrans covering the Reds. He always, he did a good job, and he had always good for a crazy story every few years, like the
Brandon Phillips
one, and the how does that help the Reds? Yeah, he was good. I miss him.
Oh yes. Well, we miss them. Yeah, someone on Twitter the other day said only like one of the actual beat writers still follows the team or reports on the team. And
Oh, does he
I mean,
still? Is he still in Cincinnati?
yes, he writes for the Athletic supposedly.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I didn't notice there was any red stories on there. I'll have to check that out.
No, my subscription to the Athletic is lapsing when it runs out.
I love Paul Danner Jr. does a great job with the Bengals, and there's some good national stuff. I didn't know they covered the Reds.
I love you being a straight guy, by the way. Yes, no, it's not what we hoped it would be at any point, really, from that standpoint. So Reds 9 to play. What do you think they need to do to make the playoffs? What record do you think gets them in?
I mean, 7-2 probably does it. 6-3, they may be facing out lighter in a one-game playoff.
Hey, no, but there's tiebreakers now. They have
Oh, yeah, they
tiebreakers.
did. The tiebreakers look good for them, right?
The tiebreakers over the Mets and the Diamondbacks. I guess they tied the series, and my son smartly pointed out they tied the season series with the Giants. And my son looked at me and he said, "Dad, that tiebreaker is going to be messed up because opening day they put Jabot in the ninth inning." You don't need any evidence that
Forgot about that.
every game matters, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that they'll get what they deserve because
Because Ian
where's he
Jabot
now?
he's still rehabbing.
Oh,
And well, they might have actually called off his rehab. But yeah, that if that came back to bite him, I don't know what they do if that happens because I guess they flip a coin or something.
I'm sorry. I just Googled Ian Jabot, and the third result just says what happened to Ian Jabot.
You just asked that question, basically. Where
Yeah.
is he?
Yeah. His rehab assignment was paused in August, and he had
Yes.
surgery for his labrum. So, and to reattach his biceps tendon to his upper arm.
Hey, I had that surgery.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's a biceps tenodesis. He should never pitch again, probably.
Oh,
That's actually that's kind of close to what Joey Votto had. In my case, the labrum and the biceps tendon were rubbing against each other, causing both of them to fray. And so they had literally cut my biceps tendon up, under your armpit, at the top of your armpit, and they put a composite screw just down below the armpit into the arm. Yeah.
were you able to throw really hard after?
No, I didn't have rookie of the year. Plus,
Didn't
I'm
work that way.
right-handed.
Yeah.
I'm right-handed. It was my left arm, so no, I didn't have that little snap. But no, that's a grueling rehab, by the way. That
You
Joey
didn't.
Votto it was no joke what he talked about, what he went through. It
You didn't
was
go. You didn't get the Rowan Gardner surgery.
no, I wish I did. I had to deal with from my have to or my want to or whatever Gary Busey was saying. This is going off the rails. No, so you 7-2 could get them in, and they
I
haven't
think
really.
so, don't you?
Yeah, I think the way that the
The
teams
way
are lined.
everybody else. I mean, all these teams are garbage.
Yeah, it's 500 basically. It's a race to 500 to try to get in.
Yeah.
I would guess you need to go 80. What, they're 76, so that would put them at 83 wins. 83
Okay.
wins. Hey, that was it. The 06 Cardinals won 83
Yeah.
games and
Yeah.
won the World Series.
Yeah. Yeah. We all remember that.
Yeah, because
They got rings. The rings and the flags still fly, right?
best fans in baseball got rewarded. Now they're spoiled. That's who Brian Kelly should call spoiled.
That's right.
You're not coming to games anymore just because they have a down season. Shame on you, St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to derail us, but that is rich, man. I mean, those guys have 2 bad seasons, and all of a sudden, it's all. I don't know what rating we have on this podcast, but it's all nonsense.
There you go.
Best
I
fans
like
in
that.
baseball.
That's where we are. That's the family show that we are. Nonsense.
Yeah,
Yes.
nonsense.
No doubt. It's because they're spoiled. Like Brian Kelly thinks the media pool there in Baton Rouge is spoiled. He did, Brian Kelly, by the way. That was Saturday. On Monday, he apologized.
I heard. Yep. Texted the guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, it's all good. You know, I won't tell the whole story, but even as a high school reporter, I got a coach pretty angry at me one time, and she refused to talk to me after a playoff game, and it was a mess. And I went and talked to the athletic director, who was on site because they had a different event. He wasn't even at her event, and I talked to him, and he said, well, I said she's complaining because I only came to 1 or 2 games this year, and I covered like 7 schools in every sport they played. And he looked at me and he said, this is the athletic director. He said, Seth, I haven't been to that many games this year.
What sport was this that she expected wall-to-wall coverage of?
It was softball. And it's a big deal at the school we're talking about. But the thing that happens in the spring, as you know, as a baseball dad, and I guess you're a softball dad too, high school especially is so compressed in the spring because you can't get outside enough. Now with turf, it's better now. Baseball fields that are
They're
made
all
of all
playing
turf.
at the same time.
Right, but the problem is back, especially then when it was all in grass, and if it rains all spring, and my schedule is my schedule. I'm going to this team
Yeah.
this night, and I would plan to show up at a game, and it would be raining, and they would cancel it. And the next night, I got to go to a different game, And
Yeah.
but the funny thing was, I had just taken over that beat, and I looked at the previous year. They had made a run to a regional final or something like that, or a state Final Four. And I counted the number of stories before the playoffs, and I'd written the exact same amount as the guy the year before. But when you go all the way to the state semifinal or regional final, it's like extra 4 or 5 weeks that you're getting covered. And once you're making runs in a tournament, we covered you every single game.
Yeah.
So she was in her mind thinking, well, we got covered way more last year. And it's like, honey, I didn't say honey, I'm sorry. That didn't happen because I was just mortified. I was a 20-something-year-old punk. Like, wait, you're not going to talk to me? I gotta turn in this story. Yeah, but no,
Yeah, well, I'm sure the story was fine without the coach's quote.
it was pretty amazing. She instructed her. She said, "Me and my players discussed it, and we're not going to talk to you." Okay, cool. So anyway, reporters get a lot of guff from coaches sometimes. All right, 7 wins gets them to 83, and you called it, Chris. They're going to win the World Series if they get to 83 wins. Okay, that's what you said, right? World Series.
Yeah, right.
All right, before we head to viewer mail, I wanted to ask you your opinion in lieu of recent events. What's your favorite Robert Redford movie?
Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, man, I really like Robert Redford.
Yep.
There's a lot. I mean, I think Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is about as good a movie as you could ever make. As a journalism school graduate, All the President's Men is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always partial to Jeremiah Johnson
Okay.
with the Back to Nature and Will Geer from the Waltons as the Bear Claw
Yeah.
guy. I'm not going to say The Natural.
Okay.
I'm not, it's a baseball podcast, but I'm not. I have some issues with The Natural, but
Like
mostly,
he was almost as old as Wilford Brimley.
yeah, that's part of it. And the second part of it is if you've ever read the novel, it ends a whole lot differently.
Okay.
A whole lot differently. The Roy Hobbs character is a play on actually Shoeless Joe.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a whole different deal.
Okay.
But yeah, The Sting obviously was a very formative movie for me growing up. We watched a lot of that in my house. That was in that weird era too, where like you'd have a movie and it was set in the 1930s,
Right.
and everybody had like 1973 haircuts.
Yep.
It's like watching the Waltons or watching Happy Days. And like, there's like 2 guys on here who actually look like where they're supposed to be in it, and everybody
Right.
else looks like they're going to Studio 54 after the filming.
So you're
Yes.
kind of showing our age difference a little bit because for me, The Natural just hit just right. Because remember back in the day, the movie came out in 1984. And then probably about 1987, when I'm falling in love with baseball, suddenly it's on broadcast TV.
Yep.
right? So, and we didn't have cable, so it just hit. And we had VHS, so you could record it. The Natural will probably be my answer for that reason, but I'm gonna give you one that's kind of a cheat, but it is the first one I popped in this week after I learned that he passed away. A River Runs Through It,
Oh man.
directed by Redford and narrated by Redford as Norman McLean as he's older.
Well, I will tell you that I love that movie. Fantastic movie. And that is my all-time number one favorite book.
Okay.
The A River Runs Through It. It's that story, that novella, I guess you'd say, plus 3 or 4 other stories. Norman McLean wrote that when he was in his 60s at least.
Wow.
He had been a professor and he kind of was like retired, and he's like, all right, I got these stories that I've been holding back. And he wrote that, and it's absolutely the best book I've ever read in my life. And I've read a lot of.
I'm gonna get it. I haven't read
it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievably beautiful and perfect. There's not a word out of place in that entire book.
That sounds good. I'm gonna have to check that out. Certainly the ones you mentioned are great. Sneakers is sneaky good.
Top notch
enjoyed
movie.
Sneakers. This one came out at a time when I snatched up every DVD as it was released, basically. And Spy Game.
That's a good movie with Brad Pitt.
I would fall asleep to that movie probably twice a month when I was single and in my mid-20s. Absolutely.
That's a really good movie. I'll throw one more out there for if anybody like me is a fan of like gritty 70s conspiracy theory or conspiracy thrillers. 3 Days of the Condor. It's got Redford and Faye Dunaway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a Bourne type idea, maybe with a little bit less action and a little bit more paranoia. Really, really good movie from the mid-70s.
What's the one? Is it Brubaker? There's a
Brubaker, yeah.
So that's set in Perry County, Ohio, which was one county over. Actually,
I did not know that.
They filmed it there. There's actually an editor friend of mine posted an old clipping from the New Lexington newspaper, which is in Perry County. And it basically detailed how Redford they wouldn't disclose where Redford would be because they didn't want a bunch of people hounding him. But he flew into Columbus apparently and had meetings about, the plans on what they were going to shoot and how they're going to shoot it. And then they drove out to Perry County and did it all. So it was kind of a cool thing.
That's where he goes undercover in prison, right?
Yes. There was actually Tony Kornheiser detailed because he obviously knows Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, having worked at the Post. They were detailing how Redford was actually friends with them after the book came out, and or maybe as they wrote the book, they had written the stories. That's what it was. They'd written the stories for the paper, but then they were writing the book, and Redford implored upon them to make themselves kind of the heroes, like the.
Interesting.
That's what was said on the podcast, the Tony Kornheiser Show podcast. But they talked about how Redford and Bob Woodward were actually really good friends. So pretty cool there as well. There's definitely a lot to go through. There's a lot, whether we have it. I even have Barefoot in the Park. I have it on DVD.
Have you seen The Candidate?
No, I want to.
Candidate's really good too.
And that's based a little bit on Jerry Brown, right?
Probably, yeah. Holds up really well. It's a bit from 72, I think. He's a guy running for Senate, I think, in California.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe governor, but I think Senate. That's a really good movie too.
I need to look into that one. But hey, my feelings about The Natural, I like it. It's
got the best score I think I've ever heard in the movie.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I ran around my family room as the lights were. Yep, there you go. All right, let's turn to viewer mail now that we have talked about a lot non-Reds, but we talked about baseball, so that's good. Viewer mail, again, is part of our Patreon group. Folks who are a part of that are in our Slack channel, and I put out the bat signal. And boy, we got a lot of answers today, Chris. Host of Late Night Reds, Skylar Webker says, all in all, this team is exactly what we thought they would be in spring training, roughly 500 team. The only reason they're in the race right now is because the Mets hate winning. Now they get over the hump. How they get over the hump next season? Boy, this is not a question, Skylar, but I guess we'll let you take over the show here.
Let him cook.
All right. Get a big bomber bat that knows how to finish the season. Example, Kyle Schwarber. I hear he might be from Ohio. Fire the health and training staff into the sun. Rebuild the bullpen so Barlow, Santillan, and Pagan don't have 75-plus appearances on the season. You know, back in my day, Scott Sullivan posted 92 times a year, no matter what. I'm sorry. Protect guys from themselves. Everyone wants to play every day, but these guys are drained at the end of the season. 2 to 3 games off in June and July would help in September. Let's pretend that was a question. Do you think this team's better if Ellie had taken 3 days off?
Yeah, I think so. It was interesting in tonight's broadcast. They talked about that a little bit. And they actually said that, and I don't know when, speed is back up to where it should be. You know what I mean? Like he's running as well as he normally does. But he should have had days off in June because he needs them now.
Right, but they can't afford to give them to him now. And that's like
Right.
Tito drops him to 7 in the order and made the thing where he said, well, I'd rather have him in the order a little bit than not at all. And
fine, let him play every day. Put him at DH.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, I mean.
Yeah, now that you have Hayes, you could spare Espinal at short a little bit.
Espinal.
Your favorite.
I will say, I'm very pleased that after the trade deadline, Santiago Espinal's playing time has gotten to appropriate Santiago Espinal
Yeah,
level.
he played the role he was meant to play the rest of the year, right? Yeah. I'm not sure when this was sent, but this is the next one in this thread. Joey Gaditza says, I've said before, Joey's from Canada, by the way. In my fandom, the Reds remain supreme in the pecking order, but every year it seems they go down this path of close, but realistically not close enough. I'm never surprised by it either. That's kind of what I was kind of talking about earlier. Like, are we just not surprised? So this time of year, I have the Commanders, Rough Riders, the Habs are close to firing up, and the Jazz. Full disclosure, I follow them the least close. Okay, Joey. To keep my sports addiction fueled. It's been a while since our Reds have forced that addiction. One of these years, right? Right? That's a question.
I mean, I would say in a rational world, I would say eventually, yeah. But we're now looking at 30 years.
Literally 30 years since they won a playoff series. And folks, playoff series are more, there are more of them now.
You only have to win 2 games sometimes.
That's right. They only had to win 1 technically in 2013 to have been considered that. So, it just, you know how Chad says this sometimes. You've said it before, how they're not a serious franchise. Those are the words. I actually used that in a letter to our school superintendent last week. I said, it's hard to believe that you're a serious school district when X happens. And I mentioned being a fan of the Reds, so I'm used to that. Rex Scott says, I'm following the team until we are out of it for sure. We have 7 out of our remaining 10 games at home against one team that knows it's in the playoffs and which seed it likely has, and another team that's been out of it for months. That's the Pirates. After that, we have 3 in Milwaukee. 3 in the Milwaukee to end the season. That's bad vibes, man. 1999 all over again. And should want to beat them to advance our chances to slay the narrative that we are their foils. I know, boy, Rex is getting poetic. I know it's a long shot with us being 2 games out with 10 games left, 9 now, but it's not so unlikely that I've thrown in a towel. Moreover, the Mets are 13 games under 500 on the road this season, and 6 of their final 10 games are out away from New York. Never surrender, Rex says. Good numbers there. 13 games under 500 on the road, the Mets?
That's disgusting.
That is a serious franchise and money spent. But wow, that's a lot. Tim Daniel, former friend of the program and actual co-host of this program, says, "Well, I have to watch them all still." So you signed up for that, Tim. All right. James Urban says, "I glance every now and then, but that's about it right now. It feels like whoever gets that last spot won't belong anyway, to be quite honest." Well, I mean, that could
Anything
be
can happen.
that could be true, or it could be the Diamondbacks that made the World Series 2 years ago. I mean, whomever gets that last spot, you don't know. Once you're in, you're in. All right, last one. Brandon Kamick says, "Usual timeline for me. Watch every game at the beginning of the season, catch a few games a week until no hope remains or the latest prospect debuts. This franchise will never break me, though. I'm always chasing the high of a title." And he's got other allegiances here. He says, "If UK basketball didn't give me 3 titles in my lifetime, my sports life would be absolutely bleak." So he's a UK fan who has some titles. I've had that feeling as an Ohio State football fan that at least they've gotten me through a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Certainly, I was happy in 1990. I was a very happy young lad, so I do have that memory. But no, it's tough. I mean, you think about it. If the Guardians / Indians have given Cleveland fans something to root for, and certainly the Cavs got their title a few years ago, but there was a long time there where the Browns and those
Back to
teams weren't the
madness.
best, right? So, what are you? I know you're a Bengals guy, but have you been a big fan of anything besides Bengals and Reds in your life?
Uh, you know, I'm kind of a fan of Ohio State, but I didn't go there, so I'm a little bit like I keep it at arm's length a little bit. So I'm always happy when they win, especially when I was living in California, being a an Ohio State fan was like a kind of a cool connection to back home.
Yep.
So that the game against Miami was a really really fun night for me, and we all suffered through the Cooper era, so that was like
Yes, we
a
did.
big catharsis.
I
Um,
actually went down a rabbit hole today. I had all my recordings from student radio because Gary Danielson was honored at the Purdue game this past weekend, and he mentioned on an interview today that one of his greatest games that he got to call was Drew Brees beating Ohio State in 2000. And I called that game. I had the play-by-play that day, so I had to go find the audio. It's on my Twitter feed. Folks can listen to that. A squeaky-voiced Seth Shaner calling the Seth Morales 65-yard touchdown from Drew Brees.
oh man,
So I did find it, but I had some John Cooper sound as well. Speaking of, John Cooper used to say all sorts of things, and then you'd ask him a straight question, and he'd say, "Didn't I say everybody's healthy?" And it was like, "Well, we know this guy over here can't play. He can't even walk to the locker room, coach."
uh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, John
I
Cooper.
I was also a big Detroit Pistons fan back in the '80s.
Okay, Bad Boys, huh?
Yeah, Bad Boys guy from like all the way, and this is a thing that like my theory of fandom is that you really do need to go through the wilderness a little bit.
Mhm.
You need to have your team lose in game 7 of the conference championship to the Celtics a couple times, or the semifinal one year and the final the next. Like you need to almost get there and then next year get a little closer and then finally win it to really, really appreciate it. Like I think if the Bengals had won the Super Bowl when they
Oh
were
my
there,
goodness. How grateful would we have been?
yeah, I mean, I would have lost my mind because I'd
Yeah,
suffered for a long, long, long time. But it still would have been a little weird if like the Borough just rolled right in and won.
that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, us as fans have been through it, but that group
Yeah.
hadn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And my other team is Gonzaga basketball.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, so when I was on the West Coast, it was impossible to watch my teams back here
Uh-huh.
because I'm at work at 4 o'clock in
Yeah,
the afternoon when
that's
they're
true.
playing, right? So I actually methodically went through a process. I said, I need to pick a team out here. This was like 2001. I said, I need to pick a team that's in the West Coast and I'll follow them. And I want somebody I can see in person at least once a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to pick a great team. So I ruled out UCLA and Arizona. And I'm like, just somebody who seems like a cool team. And I was actually down to Oregon and Gonzaga.
When you got to see, that's right when Mark Few took over, because Monson
Yeah,
had
I
them
basically
in
Mark Few's
98 or
first
99.
year was the first year I followed, and they had an ESPN, one of those behind the scenes series, kind of like Hard Knocks for college basketball that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of got to know all the guys, got to know who the Coach Few was, and ever since then, I people think I'm an idiot. I'm like, my beloved Zags, but at this point, it's almost 25 years that I've been cheering for this team, so I kind of can believe it.
My wilderness story of Ohio State men's basketball was between 92 and 99. They were pretty bad. And that was my junior high and high school years and first year of college. And so I enjoyed watching like Carolina and Dukes of the world. I just liked watching college basketball back then. But that idea of somebody suffering and then getting over the top for me was Arizona, because I picked them to win the title with Khalid Reeves and Stoudemire, and they got beat in the first round as a 2 seed. That might have been the year Miami, Ohio beat them.
That was Miami beat them at UD.
So I was all upset about that, but then when they won it later on in '97, I was really happy. And I have no ties to Arizona, but at the time, Lute Olson, I mean, I actually read his book. It's probably behind me somewhere. It was pretty interesting. So I understand following other teams, but
my wife was at that game. She's actually a U of A grad.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So you could have legitimately become a U of A fan. You wouldn't have had to.
I didn't know her then, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah. So
All
I've
right.
kind of been. I've watched a lot of Wildcat basketball for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, so let's wrap this up. The percentage of actual Reds talk on this edition of the Riverfront Reds Show is probably at an all-time low, and
It
there's
probably
probably a
is.
reason for that. But all you need to remember out there, folks, is Chris Garber says they're going to go 7-2 and make the playoffs, and you can fill in the rest.
I guarantee it.
So there you go. Keep cheering on those Reds. Keep checking with us. We'll have late night Reds on Sunday evening. The picture will become clearer and clearer as we go along. And by the way, actually, over this next 7 days, Chris, if they make some sort of huge run, I may have to get you to come right back, because
Emergency podcast.
we're going to owe the listeners and viewers, their viewers, we're going to owe them some actual analysis of this team that I don't really, I mean, aside from what you had to say about Hunter Greene tonight, spot on. But beyond that, I think we'll owe them more if the Reds can go 5-1 or 6-0 this next week.
All right, deal.
All right, man. Have a great weekend yourself. Go Patriots, and your Patriots, not the New England Patriots. And we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next week. Thanks so much, everybody.